So real quick, we're gonna start here where it says pool right there. That's a 15 amp breaker. That's a GFI breaker. That has to be done. That's the first thing you want to do. Without that, you're obviously not to code, for one, and two, it's not safe. You don't want people swimming in your pool. You don't want your family. You don't want anybody in the pool if it's not GFI protected. And it all starts down in your service panel. It's real easy to put a breaker in. Maybe one day I'll do a video on how to put a breaker in, but anyways, basically you would need that to be a 15 amp breaker, and then you need to have a GFI 15 amp outlet on the outside as well. That has to go through conduit from the house. It'll go up there. You can't see it, but it goes out the side of the house there, and you'll see from later in the video where it goes. But we'll start there. The 15 amp GFI breaker, and that's going to be the safest way to start your project. So far, this is what I'm working with. Got the pavers all installed and getting ready to spread the sand. So you can see the pool installed nice and level. We're going to talk about that here in a minute. But if you walk over to the side here where your pump goes, there's some crucial steps that need to be taken to make sure that it's safe and that it's also installed correctly, so everything works right and then no one dies. So we'll start here on the side of the house. So we got what I showed you downstairs through the breaker coming in, going 18 inches underground. This runs over to the pump. So I have approximately 5 feet away from the pool on this wooden post that is sitting on concrete and then buried around it. Then we have that wire that goes 18 inches underground up back through the conduit, which is sealed all around, into a 15 amp GFI breaker. So a lot of people, where the first mistake is, they run an extension cord from their pump to the house, even if it's on a GFI on the outside, which I think code requires GFI on the outside anymore anyway, just because of the weather elements. It's still not safe. It has to be on its own circuit. You have to have minimal wire travel. You can't have some 20-foot extension cord running from the GFI, because what happens if there's a break in the wire, even if it's plugged in a GFI? Let's say even if we're doing the proper setup here, but you install this too far away from the pool and you have to use an extension cord. Now you have an unstable source coming from here to the pump. And what happens if there's a some sort of ground fault that happens in the actual extension cord, and it's not going to be protected right away by the plug? So you want to make sure there's no extension cords. You go directly from the pump to the outlet that you installed properly, and then you're good there as far as the electrical hookup goes. But then there's another step that a lot of people don't do. It's called bonding. So basically, there's a little toad. Basically, bonding is when you make everything with the water, the metal, everything with the pool, you make it equal, and you bond everything together so it's all connected and all equal, and you cannot be grounded out that way if you're in the pool. Because if you're in the pool, let's say it's not bonded correctly and there's electrical current flowing through, and you're just in the water. Let's say there's electrical current here and I was in the water completely. I would not know until I ground myself out and touch something metal. I have a vinyl resin ladder, but it could be, let's say, a metal ladder, and you're getting out. As soon as you touch that metal, you ground yourself out with the ground, and then you get electrocuted. And just imagine if you're in here with your family, or imagine you're at work after you set up the pool and you didn't do it correctly. You come home and your family's floating around because they get electrocuted. That has happened. It happened in Akron, Ohio a couple years ago. Really sad story. I think 5 people died in their pool. But bonding, you basically run, so this is a 24-foot round pool. So you run copper, I want to say it's number 8 copper wire that runs around a foot excess of the diameter of the pool. So this is a 24-foot round pool. You're going to run that copper wire on a 26-foot diameter, so it's a foot away from the pool. And you may ask, well, if the pool's 24 foot and you say 26 foot, that's 2 feet. Well, you got to count a foot out on this side and a foot out on the other side. So there's your 2 feet difference. That gives you a total of 26 feet in diameter. And you can use the pi formula to figure out how much wire you need, but you want to have the wire all connected, preferably in one piece. So we'll start up here where it goes to the skimmer. So inside, we'll remove the skimmer basket. there's a metal plate in here that connects right there. All right, that's where we start, or end, depending. Either way, it's all connected together, so there's real no beginning or end. And then it goes down underground to about 4 inches. And on these uprights, your posts that go around the side of the pool, you pick 4 equally distanced uprights. So I know it doesn't look like it's a foot there, but it actually comes out a little more and connects underground. And you'll use lugs like that screw into the side of the very bottom of the upright, or at least the 4 inches down, wherever you're at. I don't think there's an exact number. As long as it's underground enough is all it really matters, and protected. But those copper lugs will connect to the upright. And if you were looking at the pool from the top down, you'll split it up in quarters, and then you'll find the next upright that's a quarter away, connect it again, and then move on, and you go all the way around the pool and reconnect where you started. And then that way the metal of the pool is now bonded with the earth, or bonded together. The water, which again is through in the skimmer, there's that plate that runs through on the other side that's connected to this. Now all the water that's coming through and going into the pump is now bonded with the metal. So even if there was electrical current in here, you can't ground yourself out because you're bonded. And that's another huge safety priority, equally as important as how you wire the pool up. Some pumps will have a bonding lug that runs to the actual pump too, which you would then just connect that wire on the bonding lug, which may be requiring a copper rod to be pounded into the ground about 6 feet. But this setup does not require that, so I didn't have to do that. But that's something that if your owner's manual, when you're setting this up, if it says it, do it. Now, if you pay a contractor to come out and install your pool, at least half of the time they're not going to wire it up. They're going to require an electrician to do that. I can tell you from experience, some friends of mine who either had their pools installed, the contractor never wired it up. They just simply put the pool in and leveled it. Speaking of leveling pools, if you can look, or if you can see, the pool is perfectly level. I'm within 1/8 of an inch level on this setup, and we're going on year 2 with the pool, and it hasn't settled at all. So when you're setting up your pool, when you get your kit, don't pay somebody $5,000 to do it. You can, if you have an elevation like I had where it significantly increases on the grade to the house. I mean, I have a tractor I can use. If you've seen my videos, you know which one I'm talking about, but you could always rent a Bobcat and level out the area using a transit. The most important thing is, obviously, you want to get the ground level, and if you don't know how to use a transit, it's pretty simple. Basically, you just pick your lowest spot. You can rent a transit real cheap if you don't want to buy one, but you pick your lowest spot, and then they have them either a laser or a sight transit. But the old school ones work just as good. They have a little sight that you look into, and you have someone walk around with it's basically a big meter stick, and it'll show you the height difference from where you're at, and you want to make sure everything's equal. So there's plenty of videos. Maybe I'll do one eventually on how to use a transit, but use a transit, do it right. Don't use the 2x4 with levels. And these uprights here, to be on pavers or some sort of good concrete foundation, and the ground below it can't be dug up or tampered with. So you want to make sure that these uprights sit on a good solid surface that hasn't been messed with. They can't just sit on the dirt. You have to put them on pavers. You can either get paver bricks, or you can get even patio stone. I mean, any type of good solid concrete will work. Don't use wood, because wood will eventually rot underground. And you just basically make sure that using your transit, once the ground's level, make sure that the uprights where they're going to be sitting, where the pavers are, make sure they're all level. You want to be within 1 inch. I think they say 1.25 inches, but if you look at my water line here, if you compare this line to the liner, you look all around, it's nice and level. Nice and level, and that's what you want. And this is year 2, so it clearly had time to settle. There's 120,000 pounds of water in here, so if it was going to settle, I think it would have done it by now. You know, people are paying $5,000 to have these things installed. One guy I know paid $7 grand. It was $5,000 for the labor and $2,000 for the pool. I paid, I want to say, $2,300 for this pool, give or take a few $100s in electrical. For under $3,000, I had this pool set up, and then I think I paid, I don't know, $600-700 for water to be delivered. And this is the same water that I used last year. Which brings me to my last point. When you close it for the winter, you don't drain the water out completely. You never do that. But you also don't want to drain, you can set this up, you don't even have to drain the water down completely below the skimmer either. There's a cover, which I'll show you, that you can put on here that'll seal the water from going out through the skimmer into the pump. And then there's a plug that you can put inside the inlet that seals it up. So that way you can take off your pipes and move your pump back to the back to storage for the winter so it doesn't break. But that cover that goes on the skimmer, just like this, it presses in, the foam expands and seals everything up. And then the plug's pretty much the same thing that goes on the inlet, and that'll seal all the water from coming out. No water will be in the skimmer, no water will be in, well, these pipes you can take off, or you can remove them from the pump. Either way, no water is going to be coming out. And the added benefit is when you open up your pool back in the spring, you don't have to worry about topping it back off. You might lose a little bit of water if the ice built, or if rain and ice and stuff build up on top of the cover and push down. It might push water up over the sides, but you're not going to lose that much, if any. So you can buy those covers on Amazon for like 20 bucks. It came with the pool, but they're still pretty cheap. Another quick tip, when you're cleaning your filter, you're going to run through backwash setting. It's going to come through this hose out to, somewhere far enough away where it's not near the foundation of the pool. But after you're done with that, a lot of things people are doing, a lot of steps that are being skipped, is they're not hitting the rinse location on the filter. If you don't rinse it, it's going to blow back all that sand and dirt and stuff that's left in there. It's going to blow it right back in the pool. So you make sure you rinse it off so the sand settles and it rinses everything off and gets all the excess debris away before you put it on filter, or else you'll blow a lot of debris back in the pool. And then if you're going to use a vacuum, another thing that'll save you some hassle is when you're running the vacuum, run the pool in backwash mode first, run the pump in backwash first,